All right, again, lesson 14 is focusing on horizontal and vertical lines and what are the equations for that. So if we look at number 4 here, it says graph the linear equation y equals -2. I want to show you something. This is normally how we're going to write it. In the last video, the one example, they would write it maybe like, oh, let's see, 1x plus 0 times y equals -2. And you're not going to see it written like that very much, because why would we write 0y? Just 0. And so we would, and really, why would we even write the 1? So it's just going to be x equals -2. But this is what this means. There isn't a y term. Okay, so if I did a input-output table, x can't be 0 because x equals -2. Well, if x equals -2, what is y going to be? Well, y can be anything because you're multiplying it by 0. So it could be 1. Y could be -4. Y could be 274. I don't really care because what matters is that our x value is always going to be -2. X equals -2, always. So when I go to graph this, basically I need to know that my x value is always -2. So it's -2 and y is the 1, it's -2 and y is the -4. Not graphing 274 because remember, we're going to draw arrows at the end of our lines. Could be 5, -2. Like, so you can see this vertical line forming. And here's going to be this is not hard to do, but here's the confusing part. When we think x, we think of an x, we think our x-axis. And what's confusing is our x-axis. Sorry, I was trying to straighten this out a little bit. You guys will get it. The x-axis is horizontal. And now I'm telling you that if an x equals -2 here, x underneath there, it's going to be a vertical line. So remember, the x-axis, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about x values. And where x values are all the same, is going to be a vertical line through that number. Okay? Do you have to make an input-output table every single time? No. So if we look at the next example, this x equals 3, again, remember that's 1 times x plus 0 times y equals 3. But if you see that the x always has to equal 3, you should know it's automatically going to be a vertical line. Why? Because again, the x values always have to be 3. So here's my x-axis, here's my 3. So if I were to plot points, the left to right movement always has to go to 3. 3, 0, 3, 3, 3, -2, 3, -6. I think that's on there. Okay. X equals is always going to be a vertical line. And I will try in class to give you a little trick to remember it. But if nothing else, you just got to remember that it's opposite of the x-axis. Okay, so what is the graph of x equal to 0 going to look like? Well, x equals 0. Let's do this. It's a random color. X equals 0. That's going to be right here on the y-axis because remember, all our x values have to be 0. That occurs on the y-axis. So what is our graph of x equals 0 going to look like? Well, remember, as soon as you see x equals something, I'm sorry, x equals just a single digit, a single number, no, it doesn't have to be a digit, it's vertical. We know it's a vertical line. Okay, and in this case, it's really just going to be the y-axis. The y-axis has a new name, x equals 0. Okay, so if x equals a number is a vertical line, y equals a number. What do you think that's going to be? So when we look here, this y equals -2, remember that's like saying 0 times x plus 1 times y equals -2. And if I were to draw an input-output table, very badly, as always, if I put a 0 in for x, that would be 0 times 0, which is 0. So 1 would just be negative 2. If I put a 2 in for x, that would be 0 times 2, which is 0, and y would be negative 2. If I put a 4 in for x, that'd be 4 times 0, which is 0, and we're left with y equals negative 2. You're getting the idea. Doesn't even matter if you put a negative in. 0 times a negative 3 is still 0, and we're left with y equals negative 2. So if I plot these points, 0, negative 2, 2, negative 2, 4, negative 2, negative 3, negative 2, you should see the shape forming here, right? And just like with the x equals, this is going to be opposite of what we think it should be. Our y-axis is vertical, yet when we have a y equals a number, it's going to be a horizontal line. This is like the values of y. So we can't think of it as the y-axis. The y-axis is always going to be vertical. But if your y values are always negative 2, then it's going to be a horizontal line. Do you have to do the input-output table? Like with the x equals? No, you don't. When you see y equals 3, no, it's a horizontal line. No, it's opposite of the y-axis. So on your y-axis right here, find 3. Put a dot there. You know it's horizontal, so draw a line through it. Don't overthink it. Remember that all the values on this line here, if you pick any point on there, your y value is going to be 3. And that's what we want. Y equals 3. Here at the point 4, 3, 5, 3, 6, 3, negative 3, 3. Okay? Don't overthink these. You just kind of have to remember that if it's an x equals, it's going to be a vertical line. If it is a y equals, it's going to be a horizontal line. So what will the graph of y equal to 0 look like? Well, the graph of y equal to 0 is going, remember what I just said, right? Y equals, it's going to be horizontal. Ugh, that's very, very sloppy writing. Sorry, it's going to be horizontal. And so if we draw a horizontal line through where y is 0, that's going to be the x-axis. Okay, so it's a little bit of opposite thinking here, but just remember, we're not talking about the x-axis and the y-axis. We're talking, what does the line look like when our values all have to be either, y equal to negative 2 or x equal to negative 2. And that's what gives us our line, either our vertical or horizontal line.